Look at your neighbor and say this. I'm going to preach today on the call, the challenge, and the completion of Peter. I'm thinking I had that tie tack on. Mark the 16th chapter, starting with verse 7. I'm going to talk about the call of Peter, the challenges of Peter. And this is an angel that was set there to help him, and he's looking at the girls that came, and he's telling them this. But go your way, tell his disciples, now that's important, and Peter, that he goeth before you into Galilee, and there shall you see him, as he said unto you. Now turn to the book of Luke. Well, no, let's go to Matthew. Matthew first. I'll do Luke in a minute. We didn't have much singing today, and they asked, was that a problem? I told them I'll just preach longer. Matthew chapter 4. I am excited about this word. When God gave it to me, Satan opposed me. I got up to turn off a gas grill. Dad freezes and he had it too hot. I leaned to turn it off and stumbled. And I'm literally falling onto that gas fire. And I don't know how to explain this, but I'm falling this way to the fire. I land over here in my mother's flowers. Yeah, I fell that way and I landed way over there behind my table in my mother's flowers. Satan tried to burn me up this week. Matthew 4, verse 19. And he said unto them, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. And what I read to you earlier was an angel at the tomb telling them, go tell my disciples and Peter. And what I read to you right then is at the beginning, when God called Peter into ministry, he came up to him and Andrew and his fishing team, and he said this, follow me. That's your part. Figure it out in your life, in your calling, and in your ministry. He does give you a part, and church makes it difficult. 5 steps to this, 8 steps to that, 10 steps to this. But simply what he told us to do is follow him, and then not you make it happen, not you accomplish it, but he said, follow me and I will make you.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Peter needed made. If there's hope for Peter, I want you to figure out today, if he has any kind of chance, if there's every bit of fact that he can do what he's called to do, and he can be what he's assigned to be, there's hope for Todd Amburgey, because Peter was a mess. Now, we got churches that worships him and prays to him and thinks he was something big, but now, he was a mess.
Yeah.
Jesus borrowed his boat that day and taught out of Peter's boat. And he decided he wanted to bless them. And they had fished all night and they'd not caught anything. And that's a perfect picture of our lives. We work and we work and we work, and it don't look like anything's happening. We're throwing the nets over where they're supposed to be and nothing coming back. We're saying it, we're praying it, we're fasting it, we're doing it, and it looks like nothing's happening. But there's a difference when he tells you to do it.
Amen. Yes. That's right. Amen. That's right.
We can do it because brother so-and-so, and I've seen a lot of church people, brother so-and-so gets a new car, so we go to the dealership and finance a car we can't pay for. Buy stuff on credit cards and then tell everybody, look how God blessed me. God didn't bless you. You're going to pay 5 times more for that suit.
Yeah.
he uses Peter's boat, and then he tells Peter, push on out, let down your nets, with an S. Now, y'all can go read it later and see. He tells him, let down your nets. Well, Peter is a big fisherman. You're not going to tell me, Lord, we've toiled all night. And then he tries to be spiritual. But nevertheless, at your word, we'll let down the net. I've heard this preached that God will bless you in such a way that He'll pour so much on you that He'll give you a net-breaking, boat-sinking load. There'll be so much that you can't carry it in. Sounds good. Sounds real spiritual, but truthfully, God never intends on your load breaking your nets. He never intends on your load to sink your ships. If it's breaking your nets and it's sinking your ships, you ain't doing it right. Peter's all excited and it's happening. He has so many fish that his neighbors, and if you want to redneck that like Todd does, I'm going to redneck it. Jesus told him to let down nets, and Peter thought he knew it all and almost drowned it. Come on. If you do not do it the way He says do it, then your life is a mess and your finances is drowning, your health is drowning. You may want to look at what He told you to do and figure out, am I doing it that way? Peter, God, he had a fishing business. God intended on blessing his business that day for the use of his boat, and it nearly killed him. If there's hope for Peter.
Yeah.
There's hope for me.
Yeah.
You follow after his life, and Peter was a mess. You find him on the Mount of Transfiguration. You've got Moses and the old prophets up there having a conversation with Jesus. It's a holy moment. There's power and there's glory on that mountain. What does Peter do? Interrupts them. Walks up to them, hey fellas, this is a big moment. I'll build each one of you a temple and put it up. Yeah, how many things do we try to build for God that He didn't need us building no way?
Amen.
We worry about how many people's here. We worry about how many dollars comes in the offering. You all in for a mess. I don't care if Lynn's the only one that came today. I'm going to be preaching today about if there's hope for Peter, there's hope for you. And if mine and his $2 that we put in the offering's the only thing there, we're still going to have a move of God.
Amen.
You got to think about it. Peter got to hear him teach. He got to see him raise the dead. He saw him heal the sick. He saw him cast out devils. He was right there when the glory of God moved. But we don't look at the first thing God said when He called him. Follow me and I make you. You don't make you. Todd don't make you. You just stumble and follow after Jesus and He makes you.
Yes. Amen.
Where I am lifted up. He said, I'll draw all men unto me. You want to get this church house filled? Let's be a people that lifts up Jesus.
Amen. Amen.
Peter's life goes on. The most important thing I want you to get today, we don't know how to pray for people. We really don't. We struggle with it. We'll go to God and tell Him how bad the issues my kids is having. Lord, you see how they're struggling. Somebody's sick. We don't really know. Jesus taught us with Peter. Now he starts out, Peter's lazy, and I don't know how many of you realize it, but if you ain't praying and ain't no words, you're lazy. Jesus is knowing that He's facing the cross, and He's more of a teach on me today than preach. I ain't comfortable with that, but I'll obey God.
Bless Him, Lord. Jesus
He knows what's before Him. And he's praying, Father, if you be willing, let this cup pass from me. He's hurting and he's sorrowing and he's travailing in his spirit. And he asked his closest friends, the disciples, can you not tarry with me but 1 hour? And what does Peter do? He sleeps. You say, well, I work, I go to school, I've got family, I don't have time to pray. What are you doing at 3 o'clock in the morning? Now you got time to pray. It just ain't that important to you. You've got time. See, Jesus comes to this man and calls him, and he almost drowns. He almost dies. And now when Jesus needs a friend the most, he's asleep. If there's hope for Peter, there's hope for you. I don't care what you've done, what you've tasted, where you've been, how you've acted, what the court paper says about you, what the local neighborhood says about you. More than likely, if your list of bad things and failures and problems and issues is about that high, there's a pretty good chance that God intends on using you and using you mightily. It's the ones that skip through life with no issues that I don't have no confidence in. Somewhere in 1992, I sat with a shotgun under my chin, but what caused that moment was in the 7th or 8th grade. All of my buddies was athletes and played ball, and we tried out for the Car Creek Indian grade school basketball team. And they put a poster up about the size of that sign with everybody's name on it that made that team. I'm standing there with my buddies, and Todd Amburgey ain't on that poster. Oh, we're in a sports community where it means a lot, but I can tell you, that marked a little fellow that day. I felt like everybody else in the room was better than me. Everybody else in the room was worth more than I was, because my name, I didn't want to play, I didn't want to start, but I wanted a uniform to sit on the bench with my buddies. But what my school told me that day was, you ain't good enough. We've weighed you, we've tried you, and you've been found wanting, and everybody else is better than you. And at 8-year-old, that started me on a journey to where I did not like anything about me. Exciting moments in most boys' lives, when they start shaving, they get excited about it. I couldn't stand it because I had to look at my face in that mirror. Come on, there's people like this out there. There's people on the internet out there right now. You don't like you. You're hurt. Somebody told you you wasn't good enough, that you wasn't qualified. But I came today to tell you that you're marked like Peter. If you've had a rough road, you're probably called to greatness.
Amen. Praise God. Amen.
Went on, and my thinking developed to the point that I actually thought everybody around me would be better off if I wasn't here. I thought my mom and dad's life would be easier. I thought my buddies' lives would be easier. I got a 12-gauge shotgun, put it between my legs, cocked a hammer. And I had such a defeated mindset, I thought, I'll blow half my face off and live through this. I can't stand what I'm looking at in the mirror right now. I'm the ugliest, most pathetic human on earth, and if I blow half my face off, it's going to be worse. Then I hit on the idea, I'll turn the TV up real loud, drowned out the sound of that shotgun, and if I do blow half my face off, I'll lay there and bleed to death. See, church, you ain't figured out this is not a social gathering. There are people out there that if we don't have the anointing of God and we don't have a word in our heart from Him, we are their last-ditch effort. If they're brave enough to come in here and visit us, they are at their last straw, and it's up to us to have the word and the power to set them free.
Amen. Amen.
That's on us. I can go fish today. If we're not going to focus on this, that we're here to heal the sick, to cast out devils, to set at liberty them that are bruised, and to lead the lost to a dying Jesus that rose from the dead.
Amen.
This ain't a game with me. I had that thought, I blow half my face off and I can bleed to death. I decided to find something loud on TV, and MTV was a very new thing then. And I thought I'll turn it on MTV and play some music real loud. It's love ballads day. Everything they're playing's low. Ain't a bit of rock and roll thump on it. Well, that won't work. That shotgun's going to be louder than this. You may not understand what you do in here is important, but everybody's watching us.
Yes.
Your praise. Yes, you come here to praise and worship and honor the King, but I come to tell you there's some people watching you. I turned it over and I was raised in church with no music. We didn't believe in that. One fellow would voice out the song and then everybody else would sing it. I found this church that had guitars and drums very loud, and I thought, well, that's loud enough. And then the preacher come out, and he had a microphone, and he was real loud. He talked about, you don't have any trouble. All you need is faith in God. And R.W. Shambach was preaching, and he was loud, and I thought, well, this is good enough. But the thing is, the more I listened to him, the more hope arose in my heart.
Yeah. Amen.
You need to be loud sometimes because the world needs to see a people as excited about God as they are a UK basketball game.
That's right. Amen.
You get up and get mad at the TV at a ball game. Why are you not excited here and mad at the devil?
Yes.
That's right.
Somebody in your family's sick, you need to get mad about it. You don't have the money to pay your bills, you need to get mad about it. Satan's going to fight you, or you going to fight back.
That's right.
Oh, this man captivated me with his energy, with his excitement. I reached down and I uncocked the 12 gauge and I keep listening to him. And before you know it, the 12 gauge is over in the corner of that little log cabin. And I am asking God, if what this man says is real, I need this experience in my life.
Yeah.
My family did not support me following a TV preacher. He's fake. He pays them people to get out of them wheelchairs. That's all I heard. You need to quit it. That ain't real. And what I desperately needed was for that to actually be real. I'd heard about a God my whole life, but I never saw Him do anything. I don't know why people prayed. What are you going to pray for if you pray 20 years and never get an answer?
That's right.
You ain't doing it right.
Yes.
Had a friend that was a paraplegic person. Had to tie him to his wheelchair. His limbs were drawn up like this. Shambach came to Jackson. I'm there to watch. Whole wheelchair section. Everybody in my family telling me he pays them. And first person he goes to is my buddy. I'm watching. I get up real close. Shambach reaches down, grabs that boy by the hand, unfastens that buckle on his wheelchair, and you can hear the bones popping like a 22. That boy's running and walking today.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Yeah.
I know they didn't pay him. He rode in the daggone vehicle with us there. I knew how long he'd been in that chair. I knew how sick he was.
Yes. Amen.
Church, we need one-way signs on our wheelchair rentals.
Yeah.
A one-way sign meaning we wheel you in, but you're not allowed to be wheeled back out. You're going to walk out when you leave.
Yes.
See, Peter was an absolute mess. The first thing Jesus tells him to do, he almost drowns and loses his whole fishing business. When the prophets are meeting Jesus on the Mount of Transfiguration, he breaks up the meat and the offering. I'm going to build you a temple. God can use a mess. Look at your neighbor and say, God can use a mess. He's looking for it. If you'd have saw me and Scotty Kilburn and Danny Ray Reynolds when we first got in church, we was an absolute mess. The Holiness Church lied to us and told us all charismatics want to do is dance and run and praise God. Now, we was in a dancing, running, praising Holiness Church. We literally entered the doors and run the church. We danced, we leaped, we was wild, but they told us all them charismatic things about shouting. Well, me and Danny Ray goes and finds us a charismatic church. We're under the mindset that we got to dance and leap and run, and they're playing Benny Hinn music with the lights dimmed. Slow. We're thinking, well, when are they going to fall? I guess we need to get them started, Danny Ray. I said, I'll show these charismatic how the holiness man gets in. During Hallelujah, I get up and I'm going across the front of the church, doing my dance. Well, an usher comes over to sit me down, and I ain't smart enough to know he's trying to sit me down. When he puts his arm around me, I was bigger than he was. I pick him up and I start doing my helicopter shout. I've told y'all about mine and Danny Ray's miracle coat. Danny Ray was a little guy, I was huge, and we bought a coat at the Goodwill that both of us could wear. He put it on, it fit him, I put it on, it fit me. I had bought lifesavers that day and poured them out in the pocket of our miracle coat. Well, Danny Ray's smarter than me. He knows they're trying to stop my dance. So he's going to help me out. He grabs our miracle coat and he starts swinging it, and he gives out a good old-fashioned holiness yell. He's going, whoa! Well, the lifesavers is in that coat pocket. And all of a sudden, the whole church starts doing this. Well, me and Derry thinks, they liking them. I don't know. He's busting them in the head with lifesavers. We think they're all getting in with us, and it makes us that much worse. Yeah. There's hope for Peter. There's hope for that foolishness. Yeah. There's a graveyard up above my house that a motorcycle gang comes to every year, Memorial Day, and honors one of their fallen people. Well, me and Darray's coming through there, and they're there one day, and it's kind of heathenistic. These naked people and drinking people, and they're celebrating at that graveyard, so we get out and we decide that we're going to get them all saved. This is 35 rough bikers and 2 redneck boys, and we get out telling them that everybody in this place is going to hell. We heard Jesse say that, and we just took it.
Yeah.
End up laying hands on people and rolling around in the leaves. If there's hope for Peter, you may not do it right. You may not do what God exactly wants you to do. But if He told you and you heard His voice say, "Follow me," if you do the following, it's up to Him to do the making.
Amen.
You can't make yourself into a success, or you already would have been. But if you follow Him and go through stupid things and go through tests and go through trials and go through hardships, if there is hope for Peter, there's hope for me and you.
Yes. Amen.
Busted up that meeting on the Mount of Transfiguration, and then Jesus is going through sorrow, begging the Father, if there's any way out of this, God, let this I know the suffering I'm going to go through, the pain I'm going to feel. If there's another way, God, let this cup pass from me. And Peter's over. How many times has God needed you to pray?
Yeah.
How many times has He needed you to seek Him? And you was asleep.
Yes.
Oh, come on.
Amen.
I know it's tough, but it's right.
Yeah.
You got time to watch TV, you got time to pray. And you got time to get on Facebook 2 hours, you got time to get in the Word 2 hours. So if we're going to change a city, what we've did up to now hasn't worked. We need to have enough sense to realize we got to do something different. And your answers is only going to come through prayer and time in the Word. That's where you follow Him and He makes you.
Amen.
Peter's called and he's excited about it when Jesus is trying to tell him about the cross and that what's going to happen. Peter looks at him and says, Lord, I'll stand with you to the end. There ain't nobody going to be with you. How many of you have ever thought that? You have God move on you in a church service and it's, Lord, I'll do anything for you. And He tells you to write a check a certain amount and it's anything but that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tells you to get up an hour early before work and seek Him each day. I'll do anything for you, Lord, but I need my rest. It's wisdom that I rest. Come on.
Yes.
He calls you, and the first thing you do is you tear up your nets, you almost sink your boats, you almost drowned, and then you walk through life telling Him how you're always going to be with Him, He can depend on you, and when He needs you to pray with Him, you are not there, you're asleep. Jesus looks at him, and if there's anything, turn to Luke 22. Luke 22, verse 31. If there's hope for Peter, there's hope for me. There's going to be people come in here that you ain't comfortable with. If I have my way, and I'm going to have my way, you should have never given me this. I'm going to do this. There's going to be people sitting beside of you that stinks. There's going to be somebody come in that stole from you. One of my best friends in ministry, he'll watch this video sometime or another, is Joe Isaacs. He runs Faith Training Center in Somerset. I'm speaking there Tuesday. But my first encounter with Joe, we had a cabin down there at Buck Creek on Lake Cumberland. We called it a cabin, but it was a shack. It really was. It was a cabin to us, but it was really just a tin shack that we could sleep in and fish. I was going on a 10-day vacation, and I hauled some of my stuff down there the week before. Put it in our shack. I come back the next week, and my tackle boxes are gone, my rod and reels are gone, my depth finders are gone, I had cases of bacon in the refrigerator, it's gone. Somebody had got in my shack and took my vacation supply of stuff. Now, one thing about being redneck is I knew how to kill stuff to eat, and I wasn't going to not do my vacation, but it put me in a hard place. I got to thinking about these deer that I see out in the field. Herd of them every night. I'm going to go kill me a deer, and we're going to eat. Wasn't thinking about it's illegal to kill a deer out of season. It's very illegal to shoot one out of a herd in the middle of the night. But my food was gone. My stuff was gone. I was actually hungry. I wasn't doing it for the sport. And I pull up to that field, and sure enough, there's a herd of deer. One giant buck in it. I ain't hunting for horns, though. I want to eat. I put my bead on that buck. And I think, well, that meat's going to be tough. I'll just kill something young and tender. I lean over and shoot a doe, and blue lights come on. Oh, yeah. I just realized that it's awful illegal to kill a deer out of season, and it's very illegal to kill one in the middle of the night in somebody's cornfield. Blue lights come on. The officer gets out. What are you doing? And it's not the time to lie. I can't tell him, oh, I was cleaning my shotgun and had some bad primers in the shell and the thing went off. It was no, I said, sir, I'm hungry. I've not eaten a day and a half. I'm a meat cutter by trade, and it dawned on me these deer are out here and I can eat. Well, he explains to me the statutes I've broken. He said, why didn't you kill that buck? I said, because I'm hungry. I said, I'm not just killing deer to be killing them. He said, well, I saw you aim toward that buck. He said, I saw you shoot this little. I had told him, I got a shack down there. We've got an outside grill. 3 or 4 of us, we're hungry. He said, let me follow you to the shack. Well, sure enough, my buddies are there, and they've got the grill going, and they see me pull in with Fish and Wildlife, and they all scatter. Your buddies ain't your buddies when you need them. But
Yeah.
make a long story short, he took my shotgun and let me keep the deer. And we eat. But the guy that stole my stuff is Joe Isaacs. Runs faith training, him and his grandma. And you think we redneck around here, when you go out in the middle of the night stealing when you're granny, you might be redneck. Yeah. But see, if I did what I wanted to kill him. He stole my best rod and reels, my depth finder. I had cases of bacon that Fisher's Meat Company had donated to my vacation, and it was gone. I wanted him dead. There's going to be people comes in here that's probably did you wrong. Probably did this church wrong. There's going to be people come back that didn't leave here in a good way. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
We're going to look at them and realize if there's hope for Peter. Oh, yeah. If there's hope for Peter, I don't care how they hurt you, how they did you wrong. They are welcome and wanted and needed in this house. It's going to take all of us to do what God has assigned us to do.
Yes. Amen. Yes, amen.
I could have given up on Joe, but what people don't know is when I went into the coma for 20-some days, Joe Isaacs worked in a motel, and we had had a conversation in life. And if something ever happens to me, look after my mom and dad. If something happens to you, Joe, I'll look after your kids. We'd had that very, very recently. I find myself in a coma. Joe goes to his place of work. He tells them, I'm leaving. You can go ahead and fire me. I don't know when I'll be back. The man of God's in trouble, and I'm going to help. And for 20 days, he stayed there and took care of my mom and dad. If they went to a restaurant, it was him that took them. If they got back to the motel, it was him.
Yeah.
If there's hope for Peter, there was hope for Joe. He slept right beside of my hospital bed. It's always thinking and saying, I want to be here when he wakes up. His daughter Melanie slept on that cold floor saying, I know he's going to wake up and I don't want to miss it. Now that's friends when they leave their life and forsake everything. Yeah, he took some bacon and he took some fish and stuff, but when I needed him, he was not asleep. He was wide awake and willing to help and serve.
Amen. Amen.
My dad was 84 then, and they wasn't capable of getting around Lexington. They couldn't even find a cafeteria in that hospital, but Joe had them by the hand, taking them. That person that you don't like, that used to come here, that used to be a part of this, might be the very person that leads your family by the hand when you're in trouble and you're in need. If there's hope for Peter, you're going to have to shake those thoughts off and forgive.
Amen. Yes. Amen.
Bless him.
See, Jesus, he could have looked around that day and said, man, this is a professional fisherman. I told him to let down nets and the idiot gets one net. And look, he's ripped his nets up. What a fool. Could have looked at him that day. He interrupted him and Moses and thought, couldn't you see, Peter? This was a holy moment. Ain't no telling what would have happened with the glory that was on this mountain, and you messed it up. He could have looked at him and said, I needed him to pray with me. I needed him bad. I knew I was going to suffer and I needed a friend, and he slept. Could have gave up on it. You don't have any right to give up on anybody. I don't care where they've been, what they've done. If they are breathing, there is hope, and we as a church are going to hold that banner of hope high.
Yes. 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 Amen.
Peter's big mouth, he's always discussing who's going to sit on God's right hand when we get to heaven, who's going to sit on his left. Kind of made fun of John. They labeled John, he that the Lord loves. John tended to lay his head on Jesus and cuddle up to him when they was having supper. And to manly men like Peter, that seemed a little bit odd. Come on, we're in the hills. There's a generation of us men that was taught, if we tell you that we love you, we're a sissy. Oh, come on. That's where we're at. Come on, boy, be a man.
Yeah.
A little girl get hurt, one of her cousins, and Papa would pick her up, set her in the rocking chair and let her cry and rock her all day. I cut my leg off, and my papa would hand me my leg back and say, boy, don't cry. Be a man, walk it off.
Amen.
Come on.
Yeah.
You've seen that and heard that. And it grew up a generation of men that don't know how to express anything. We don't know how to show anything. We're afraid. And Peter was like that. He'd see John laying his head over on Jesus, and Peter thought, well, that's right odd. Oh, come on. You all ain't getting it, but I can tell you my experiences with my grandfather. He wasn't a veterinarian, but he was kind of a neighborhood veterinarian. Something was wrong with your animal, You took it to my papa. Everybody did. You'd go up there and there'd be somebody drug a cow to his yard. You'd be up there the next day and somebody you grew up around there, somebody'd have a mule in his yard, somebody'd have a dog. And one day I'm walking through the yard with him and he's country. He says, grab that boar cat. Now just to call it a boar cat, that's country. He's saying get that boy cat, that tomcat. He said, wrap it up in this towel. It wasn't wrap it up, it was wrap it up. Get that boar cat, wrap it up in this towel. I'm 10-year-old. I pick up the boar cat, I wrap it up in the towel, and Papa comes out with a hot bill knife and decides he's going to castrate that cat. 10-year-old boy holding it in a towel, and he does. Next thing I know, I've got cat claws and bites all over my face, all over my nose. I'm scratched from head to toe, and Papa's I ain't hurting that bad boy. Walk it off. You shouldn't have let go of the cat. I told you, wrap it up. Well, my dad comes to get me. Now, y'all know I ain't everybody else. I tell stuff people don't tell. If you are easily offended right now, it's time to log off that Facebook Live. My dad sees me and I'm bloody. Bit me on the nose, bit me on the ear, every claw on my face. I look like I'd just been hit with a weed eater. Dad says, what's the matter? And I said, Papa cut off a cat's boy parts and it ate me up. Oh, come on, I told you I ain't like everybody else. But it's, there was a tough generation. Somebody didn't want their cat having kittens, and he fixed it that way, and it ate me up, and all I heard from him was, you ain't hurt that bad. It's just staying, be a man. My little girl cousin stubbed her toe, and he goes and gives her hard candy, and hits on her and rocks her in the rocking chair 2 hours. You'll be all right, sweetie. Papa knows you hurt and your toes hurt. Yeah. Peter was a lot like that, rough. We need the rough ones in the church. We need the ones that know how to hurt and get up and go on and speak faith anyway. We need people that are tough and violent. The kingdom of heaven suffereth violence, and the violent take it by force. This is not a sissy gospel.
Amen. That's right.
Reason he looked at him, he knew that idiot almost drowned and sunk his boat. That crazy thing disrupted my meeting with Moses. That moron fell asleep while I'm praying. And he said in his mind, he's following me. It's up to me to make him. It's up to me to make him. It's up to God to make you into what he's called you to be if you follow.
Yes. Amen. Yes.
Peter was doing everything wrong, but where Jesus went, he went. Where Jesus ended up, he ended up. Where Jesus walked, he walked. Where Jesus slept, he slept. And now they're getting ready to take Jesus away. And Peter's been voicing, I'm going to be with you to the end, Lord. I'm that rough crowd. I know how to walk it off. Roman soldiers show up, get Jesus by the arm. Peter comes out with a sword, and it says he cut a man's ear off. There's a lot of you who you were supposed to help, you've hurt. Who you were supposed to minister to, you've offended. That's right. Cut his ear off. This is Jesus of Nazareth ministry team. This was the Son of God's ministry staff, and he draws a sword that'd be no different than me right now going to my truck, getting my Glock, and shooting this man's ear off. Key to that is I wouldn't be aiming for that ear. Peter wasn't aiming. He's a fisherman. He wasn't skilled with a sword. He picked that sword up and tried to cut the dude's head off and missed and grazed his ear and cut it off. And while Jesus is facing Roman soldiers taking him off, he has to lean down and get Malchus's ear and put it back on his head because of crazy Peter. Tell him to let down nets. He wants you to know he's smarter than you, and he lets down one. About sinks his boat, loses his fishing business. Moses appears to you on a mountain, and he interrupts a meeting offering to build every one of you a temple. You ask him to pray, and he's asleep. You're about to fulfill what you were created to do, and he pulls out a sword and starts trying to cut people's heads off. If there's hope for Peter...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
How many ears you shot off?
Yes.
Trying to protect the preacher. Come on, that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
He wasn't in no bar, and there wasn't no stripper involved, or no gambling money involved, and Peter was just going to take it out on him. No, he is trying to defend the Son of the living God, and he attempts to kill a man. He messed up. But you know what I want you to take from this today? Yeah, I might be very, very messed up in life, but if I heard the call to follow Him, no matter how messed up I am, how many mistakes I made, stupid choices and wrong decisions, I might be a mess, but if there's hope for Peter,
Yes.
there's hope for me.
Amen. Thank you.
Yes. You can sink your boat, you can disrupt. I've disrupted church meetings. I've told this, but I'll tell it again. It's my pulpit. I'm official now. They notarized some papers. So. No, that was a good experience. I'll tell about later. But my preaching ministry started out at the Pentecostal Workers Church in Jackson. Still to this day, the two greatest people of faith I ever met was Clyde and Ruth Kilburn. They taught me the principles of you have what you say. They taught me the principles of faith comes by hearing, and they let me preach very early on. First time I got a meeting scheduled outside of their church was over in Challange, Kentucky. I am so excited. I prayed more that week than I'd ever prayed up to that time in my life altogether. I studied all week. I praised God and danced around my house all week. I finally got a meeting scheduled. I went to a service early, so I know where the church is good and at. I ain't late. Attended one of their services. They announced my meeting. I ain't even preached yet, and I feel like I have arrived. God's man of faith and power, and now people knows about him. I'm driving to that meeting. A mile and a half before you get to that church, there's cars parked all in the ditch. I'm thinking, oh yeah, they didn't have it about like we do. 20, 25 people is all they had. Now look, is this crowd leading to the church? Oh yeah. The ditch line's full, and it leads into the parking lot's full, and I think, man, everybody in the whole neighborhood has come to hear Brother Todd preach. This is going to be a meeting. There's a lot of strange faces there, and this was old-time holiness. If you smoked or chewed, there wasn't no hope for you. No. I seen people smoking, and I actually had the thought, well, if I was going to smoke at this holiness church, I'd go around the side and hide where nobody couldn't see me smoking. At least they hear I've drawn a crowd. I'm going to go in the side door and show them what an excited holiness preacher is like. I'm going to stir them up right off the bat and get them in. And I come through a side door like this, except it was that way. And I stand up on one foot and I give my holiness a woo! And look around and there's a casket. Oh, yeah. I look twice. I look at the crowd and I look back and there's a casket. I just, in the most horrible way you can, disrupted a funeral. I go down this way and out that way. And come to find out, the pastor had scheduled me, and then the funeral came up, and he lent them the church for the funeral and failed to tell me. And now, to this day, there is a group of people in Kentucky that will tell you about when somebody, their uncle, their brother, their daddy died, and this crazy man come in and stood in front of the casket and squalled, and then walked out and left. Yeah. If it's hope for me.
Amen.
My first meeting. I was falling. I was doing crazy things, wrong stuff. Almost every day of my life, I was an idiot about something. Anybody come through IGA that showed half a sign of sickness, I was the healing man that would walk up to them and lay hands on them in the store. Worked sometimes, most time back then it didn't. First 10 years of ministry, I can't tell you one prayer that God answered for me. Personally. I had a lot of prayer lines where people thought I was hot stuff. And deaf ears opening, blind eyes opening. Nothing worked for me. I didn't quit. See, them old timers had taught me that one thing that's hindered in a way. It took me, that's why I hug you all now. I'm going to make sure I'm affectionate. I'm going to show people love because there's a lot of them that didn't help us do it. Now, my dad was a loving person. Dad was the one they thought weird. If he sat beside of you right now in church, he's going to be patting on you. He's going to be rubbing on you. Don't mean a thing by it. It's just his nature. But I learned from him, old guys, don't quit. I hated school, but I went 12 years in school that I never missed one day. Got a big award for it when I graduated from school. When everybody else played hooky, I was there. And I worked a job from the time I was 14 and went to school. I worked 7